First of all, your take on last night's summit, a failure for President Trump?
I think so. I mean, I don't think he got anything out of it. Putin got all the points out of it. If you judge it by that, Putin got the red carpet treatment. He got effectively an American warm handshake coming out of the cold. This is a man who is already, I think, indicted in 100 countries for war crimes, and probably was laughing all the way home. You know, he conceded nothing. I think he turned up knowing he wouldn't have to concede anything because the Oval Office had basically indicated for months that in the end they weren't really going to put much pressure on Russia, despite the warm words. On the other side, Donald Trump didn't get the deal he hoped for. So I think, there are some worrying signs that, if it's about one of Putin's strategic aims is to drive a wedge between Europe and the United States, it's a little bit further along than it was, and no peace to Ukraine.
And so, but not only did he not get anything in terms of President Trump getting a ceasefire, which is what he said he wanted, he seems to have moved even further towards the Russian position in saying that apparently there's no need for a ceasefire now. It's all about trying to reach a kind of direct agreement, if you like, which to me seems like a strategy that President Putin's employed quite a lot, which is just to drag this process out.
Well, I don't think it's dragging it out. It's just Putin believes he's got the upper hand. He doesn't mind how many of his citizens he sacrifices on his ego. I mean, he's on track to have lost or injured or deserted over 1 million of his own armed forces. His economy is starting to go backwards, but as long as his ego is satisfied and history will thank him in his mind in maybe 100 years, he is at the moment determined to press on. And as long as the West, and certainly the United States, doesn't remind him that he's got something to lose, why would he make much of a concession? And I think that's been one of the biggest problems all the way through. And at the same time, the United States under Donald Trump, and this is not about really the whole of the states, this is Donald Trump's position, is effectively, can't we just get on and do business? And we'll sort out Ukraine at some other date. I think there's definitely an element here now that, given that Donald Trump has failed to deliver a deal, his history, his track record would show that Donald Trump then usually tries to seek to blame someone else. I'm worried that next week it could be President Zelensky who he'll seek to blame. He'll paint him as the warmonger when in fact everyone knows it's President Putin.
Let's talk about the one glimmer of hope that European leaders have effectively alluded to, which is this idea of security guarantees, that the United States might have moved on this. I saw earlier suggestions that there might be some type of Article 5-esque kind of security guarantee from the United States when it comes to Ukraine's security in the future. What's your understanding of what a security guarantee and the US's involvement might be in that?
Well, the first question is, what is it going to guarantee? I mean, if we have a security guarantee that involves European troops being in Ukraine and potentially put at risk to guarantee Putin's peace, then I'm not sure I could support that, or we should be in favour of that. We don't want to see a sort of repeat of the UN's failure in the Balkans, where European or British troops have to stand by and watch Russians kill Ukrainians, dressed up as militia or something, and us be powerless and humiliated. This should be about guaranteeing effectively Ukraine's peace. They are, after all, the country that has been invaded. So I think there are two halves of this. Security guarantees must be applied to effectively uphold a negotiated peace that benefits or recognises Ukraine. I think if it's just really about allowing Putin to go back and rearm while we end up effectively policing maybe Ukraine, I think that would be totally wrong. So I think we have to get to the bottom of, first of all, that security guarantees on their own are not everything. They have to be about guaranteeing a just peace. I don't see any just peace on the horizon for now. All I see is a United States that's quite keen under Donald Trump to do business deals in Ankara, but not very keen to put any pressure on Russia at all.
And just in terms of what, Sven, our role might be in this, I mean, we have talked, there's been a lot of talk about British troops on the ground if we ever get to that stage. What's your sense of our capability in regards to that? What we would have to do with other European allies? Essentially, is Europe capable of providing security guarantees without the United States?
Well, Europe is capable if NATO relinquishes some of its requirements on our standing forces. You know, a large part of European armed forces are designed and pledged, designed for a NATO plan and pledged to NATO under the commander of the Supreme Allied Commander Europe, SACEUR. If, for example, NATO was to relinquish and say, yes, you can have a corps, which is a number of divisions or a few divisions, then a number of European countries, including the United Kingdom, could redeploy those people to be used for this purpose of Ukraine. And if I was in my job today, I'd be pushing for the deployment of the ARC, which is the rapid deployment corps of NATO, to be used in this environment. There's very few Americans in the ARC, so it's therefore possible to do it. But I think the reality is Britain and a sort of ad hoc bunch of Europeans simply don't have, at the moment, the forces to do it. And I worry when I see trailed in the media sources in Number 10 talking about British troops could be deployed. And the simple answer is, what troops? You know, we have a battle group in Estonia. We're quite overstretched. Despite the warm words of this government, there is no new money going into defence at any significant level to ensure a sustainable troop deployment to Ukraine of any level, certainly not a deployable offensive and defensive force that could do its job if it was attacked by Russia or militia. We need to make sure that we are properly investing. And, you know, this is the problem with Number 10s under both governments, who have often postured around the world volunteering British forces. And unless the Secretary of State for Defence is prepared to say no, Prime Minister, and the Treasury is prepared to fund it, we end up with a hollowed out, stretched armed forces.
And just very finally, Sir Ben, if I can, while we've got you, there's reports today, I don't know if you've seen them, about the fact that thousands of more Afghan nationals might have been affected by another data breach, this one at Stansted airports. The government seems to be downplaying it, saying it's not as serious as the one we've seen before. What's your sense of that?
I think it's a different type of seriousness. I mean, my understanding from the media reports is that those individuals are now in the UK, so therefore they're at much less danger than the other group of people. Although it should be reminded, your viewers, that of the 20-odd thousand names on the list that was in that data breach, only 900 came to the UK because tens of thousands were wrong applications or false applications, people who weren't eligible. And if they weren't eligible, it's because they didn't really help the British troops, and therefore they're not in danger to the Taliban. It's a different type of seriousness, this, however, which is an enduring threat from hostile states such as Russia, potentially China, to our infrastructure and our resilience. You know, foreign intelligence are always after things like manifest, airport, airline, passenger records, because it allows them to spot our logistics and our operations. They do it all the time. I think that's what this probably was a hostile state wants to know what's going on at Stansted, who's flying where, what are our logistics. That's the more serious issue at the moment, and that needs to be dealt with.